Yeah, thanks everyone. Look, great to be here today. This is a new story, it's an evolving story I guess. Look, it's the first time we've been at this show, so it's very good. I'm very pleased to be here. So hopefully you get a lot out of this and you'll see some benefits of Krakatoa on your share registry. Okay, so I'll go through this. Look, I'm a geologist obviously by background, so I've tried to make this simplified. Try not to talk too much about geology. But just to give you a bit of background, that photo that you see there right now, that was me basically 4 days ago up at site walking in. So I've just been on a plane for just over 36 something hours. So excuse me if I'm a little bit not with it. Okay, disclosure statement. Yep, everything I say is true and don't believe anything else. It's pretty simple. Look, Krakatoa, we started back in 2012. I wasn't part of the group then, but we're listed on the ASX. KTA is a code, basically 620 million shares on issue. Market cap's been jumping up and down. I think it was about 6 mil today. Anyway, they're the dynamics at the moment. Still got 1.3 mil in the bank, obviously not as well as we'd like to be. And obviously market cap, I think everybody will see some value that can be added to this once they understand what the project we've got right now. So as for the board, it's a 3-man board and myself as the CEO. You know my background, so I won't go too much into that. We'll just move straight on to the projects. I think this is a key thing between us. Really, our key focus, and it's a new focus for us, is called the Zopkhito Project. It's now an established foreign resource. We're looking at it now to convert it across into JORC quite quickly, and then from then obviously do your PFSs and go advance it. It's held under a mining licence. I'll go into this a bit more detail, but the company also has other assets which we've been pretty much exploring over the course of the last 5 years. Those being, the Turon project and RAM projects, which are here in New South Wales. So they were gold focused, and Turon's got a little copper thing there as well. And Mount Clare, where we actually had some major discoveries in the rare earth side, and we've got a carbonatite lookalike that we hope to drill later this year as well. But on to the good stuff, the exciting stuff, which is the Zopkhito Project. This is an antimony gold project, and I'll say it's more of an antimony project than a gold one, but it does fit into this category. I'll give you some reasonings why. This photo here was of the camp back in 2018. Okay, there hasn't been any work done on this project since that period. Right, why is the Zopkhito? Oh look, simply put, I think there's about 26,000 tonnes of Y, and then you add another 800,000 ounces, and you'd say, why wouldn't you? Okay, so that is a foreign resource. It's a high-grade resource, over 12% antimony, and obviously 3.7 grams per tonne gold. Just to give you a bit of an idea of what antimony, 1% antimony sort of rates as a, say, gold equivalent right now, you're sort of looking around about that 4 grams for every 1%. So right now that's close to a 50 gram per tonne gold equivalent project. We've got the right commodity and we're at the right time, antimony and gold. So we see that as a great prospect for everyone. What we also know as well is we've got unlimited growth potential here, and I'll explain a bit more on that later, and we've got very well understood geology. There's over 27 kilometres of exploration adits that were being put into this, and over 20,000 actual geological samples, and most of those are channel samples. So they're not just little grab samples, they're actually channel samples. So moving on, obviously we're positioned right within Europe, within that Central Asia part of Europe where we intend, that is where the big market's going to be going forward. And I am starting to run out of time, so I'm going to have to go pretty quick now. But look, the project is located in the Ratchet area of Georgia, okay, the old ex-Soviet station of Georgia, between Turkey and the Russian Soviet Union right now, or Soviets. It's a mining licence. It's got pretty much 1,800 hectares, which is actually a mining licence, and it's valid until March 2042. This deposit was discovered in about 1930s, late 1929s, by the Soviet government, which they obviously worked up right up until the late 1970s, where then it was taken over by some other groups, and part of that groups were actually Eastern Mediterranean resources, which some people may know, and obviously they undertook a lot of work on this as well, and those actual numbers that we've seen on the resource, they were actually produced by Eastern Mediterranean. So, as again, it's a foreign resource. There's over 27 kilometres of underground adits, all previously explored during the Soviet era. Then there's more recent work, obviously metallurgical work, and also LiDAR survey and IP geophysics that was being done in the more recent time, and that was the last bit of work that was done back in the about 10 years ago. So what we have is we have a 80% option, okay, to buy this project. We've got a 2-year period in which we can undertake all our work that we want to do, and then we will have the option to actually purchase this at 80% of it anyway. And that leaves our local partner, okay, which has got a lot of connections, to hold 20%, so they can't just run out the door. Okay, so as a foreign resource, you sort of need to start to understand the numbers that are here. Now these are under like a Russian or Soviet classification system. As you can see, the high-grade nature of this, on average, it's 11.6% antimony, and then you've got 26,000 tonnes of actual contained metal. You've also got gold, which was a subsidy which the Russians never really looked at. They knew it was there, but they weren't very concerned about it, obviously because the grade of the antimony was so good. But when Eastern Mediterranean came in, they did a whole lot of work on that, and that's the resource that they came up to. So, about 800,000 ounces there, and that resource is just based on, as you can see, that little inlay there, that's based on those veins there. So the actual gold resource itself is based on a lot less because there hasn't been that much exploration actually undertaken looking for gold. But I guess what separates us really from, say, a lot of our peers that are antimony and gold is really our grades. We have, over 3,200 plus sort of return with grades of the channel samples that have gone over 2%. And just to put that in a bit of perspective, I guess you look at Zopkhito, okay, which is an antimony mine. Their actual grades that they're coming out, or what they've actually got, is about 1.2%. I think their maximum grades are up to 2% antimony. So we've got an order of magnitude above that. Our gold, as we said, it's a new thing. You'll see all those samples that have been labelled up in there. They're taken in 2014, okay? So those there are footwall and hanging wall. So that's the key thing behind us as well, is we know we've got this quartz vein which is really enriched in antimony. It's gold carrying in that as well, but the real gold is actually sitting in the footwall and the hanging wall. Okay, so we don't know the extent of that right now because the sampling has been limited to actually the small amount of the adit that could actually be sampled. So those intersections are actually probably going to be bigger, and they can be up to 5 metres, we're sort of seeing on surface. So this thing is large, okay? So we've also had a lot of processing done, prior to us coming in, obviously, because we only just come in there. But they've had concentrates recoveries of over 90% to achieve a 56% antimony. Okay, now that's just with one cleaning stage. That's a simple, flotation process, very back of the envelope, manila sort of thing. So what was also noted in that is that all the gold went into the rougher con. Okay, so it didn't go into the actual concentrate with the antimony. It was sitting on the outside. Now we know, being a high sulphidation system, that there is going to be some sort of level of sulphide mineralisation and encapsulation of the gold. We understand that, but with the gold concentrate, with the gold numbers that we've got, we believe that there's huge benefit. It's never been looked at, so we're obviously going to look at the metallurgical side, doing fine grind POX circuits, and maybe even looking at some low pressure pH as well to encapture a lot more of that sulphide bound gold. There's also a lot of other metals that are in this, and obviously we can't put them into the resource or that at the moment, but there's a lot of silver, nickel and zinc in this system as well, which will obviously go on as we go forward. So just need to highlight a bit more of the blue sky opportunity here. It's not just encapsulated in the 17 veins that have sort of been investigated so far. We have over 60 veins been identified at surface, which, so that's basically a lot more that we can actually get into. We also know there has been no drilling done on this project, okay? There was no need to back in the day because it was more cost effective to actually go up there and start additing, just dig a hole, okay? So we also know that the strike continues. There's a lot more outcrops in the area. Over the other side of the valley where we are, there's outcrop as well. And we did some IP, well, previous owners have done some IP work over top of the scree field, which is down near the bottom part, and the continuation of this system continues well beyond us, that is known on surface. So we see that there is a huge upside, not just on the metallurgical side, but actually in this other geological boundaries. So leads us on to where we want to go from a development strategy. Look, we're exploration. We've just done the initial work. We've compiled all the Russian data. We've just been out to site, forming a geological team now. One of our people, Sophia, she's spent the last 10 years in the stands, bringing projects like this into production. And we've got some geologists and stuff which I worked with in South America previously in these sort of terrains, and who have worked actually in Georgia as well. So the team's developing, the strategy's developing, and we're actually moving now into production, into exploration. So we're going into this phase, which is the drilling phase. We'll be looking at basically getting down and dirty, drilling out these areas. And again, we're going to concentrate on a block. We're going to concentrate on starter areas we know and recognise that have a higher potential to actually be capitalised into the future. There's no point in drilling this whole thing out, wasting all that money. We just need to get to the next level, get that JORC classification, and start the economic studies. Tick those boxes, and then once we tick those boxes, we jump into the next period, okay? What we intend to do then is obviously along the line, I guess, in the same boat as we're drilling, we'll be also undertaking metallurgical work. The beauty of having all these adits already in place is we can take bulk samples quite quickly. So that's beauty there. We'll unlock everything, we'll bring that all in together, so by the end of the year we'll be looking at bringing all this 10,000 metres of drilling and so into a JORC, and then basically coming out with it. Just with that little image at the back there, you can see those little dots. All those dots there are actually about 10% or more antimony. So that's the main parts of it. Then obviously we'll go into preliminary economic assessments, maybe even quickly into a PFS. Because we have a mining licence on this, it's just a matter of permitting after that. One of the licence requirements is it has to be JORCed, so that's why we go through this process. And obviously we've got to raise money. Everybody wants that bit of security. So development timeline, this gives you a bit of a colour-coded indication of where we're sort of heading, what we intend to achieve over the next period of time. I'll move quickly on. Georgia, okay, not many people are familiar with Georgia. It isn't Russia. It's a long way from Russia in its way it manages itself these days. Look, Georgia's got a huge amount of extensive network of free trade agreements. It was one of the things that really brought us there as well. They've got free trade agreements with China, Turkey, other CIS countries, the Europeans, Hong Kong, and it's also got agreements in place with USA, Canada, and Japan. So there's been a lot of investment in there. Just to give you a highlight, two major mining companies that are there, Rich Metal Gold, that's majority owned or 99% owned by the US, okay? So that's a big major copper, gold, silver mine which is operating and exporting at the moment. The skilled labour force there, it's got a lot. Market trends, I am running over time, sorry guys. Market trends, gold, we know where that's going. Antimony says there 50 $50,000 per kilo. It's now 60. Okay, so it's trending a lot higher. So that equivalent rate, which I don't like using equivalents, but if you lose that equivalent rate, there's actually a lot of plus there. Antimony, what's it used for? Solar panels, flame retardants, battery technology, slightly defence. Obviously, that's why it's becoming a critical mineral. Who controls it? China and Russia control over 70%. They're pretty unfriendly with the rest of the world, let's say, in the Western world. So obviously, this becomes a major demand for us. The growth is predicted for 6.1% over the course of the next until 2030. The market's getting bigger and bigger, and obviously the countries that have got critical minerals on their list, they're all listed there. So it's going thing. So I guess just really summarise and wrap up. Sorry. Why Zopkhito? I guess we've got the right commodity. We've got a de-risked option period over this. We see that as a key factor. So all our risks is really going to go into exploration, and that's what people invest into exploration companies for, yes? So we've got a known high-grade resource, which we're going to convert into JORC. We've got a development story with massive exploration upside. We've got simple processing already been seen. We've now got a pathway of infrastructure. I can't talk too much about that, but pretty much you can drive up to site tomorrow. There's ports and railways right near us. And we've got extensive growth potential here as well. And then obviously the jurisdiction is there. So look, I guess if you want to sort of quickly just wrap this up for myself, is if you start to compare comparables, and I guess we're a $5 million market cap company. When you start to compare others that, say, are in New South Wales or other places in Australia, and you look at what they've actually got, well, look at Zopkhito, they've got 15 or 17 kilometres of actually drives to get into there. We're actually going from surface, and we've already got 27 kilometres of adits. Grade is king. We know that. When the world starts to turn down again, you've got to have the grade. It's got to hold up. So hopefully within the next 5 to 10 years, this thing will be mining. It won't be me standing up here saying that. As soon as they put those hard hats on, I'm out the door. Keep the exploration going. But look, if you want to talk further about this, please come see me at the booth. I'm there. Thank you.